Back again for another video. On today's topic, we will be discussing emotional maturity. Now, this is going to be geared more towards the female aspect of emotional maturity, because I think I have been on a kick of defining things instead of explaining things. That is a large portion of my channel, is the defining of what you see, because I'm a firm believer that you have to first acknowledge something before you can address it. And if, let's say that I'm having a conversation and someone approaches me talking a different language, I can acknowledge them, but I don't understand what they're saying. So a component of change, a component of communication, a component of growth is the understanding. You can acknowledge stuff all day, but if you don't understand it, what good is the acknowledgement, right? They go hand in hand. So I think in my channel, like I said, there's a portion of explaining, definitely, but of acknowledgement. We acknowledge that these things actually exist, and I put them to the forefront, right? But I think the understanding is important as well. So that's what this video will be about: the understanding of emotional maturity, rather than the acknowledgement, because the understanding, the ability to understand, has to come before the acknowledgement to complete the circle, right? You can't have one without the other. Sometimes you can acknowledge stuff and you don't understand, or you can understand and not acknowledge, right? You have to have both in order to complete the circle. But anyways, emotional maturity. I'm gonna give you guys a few things that I have noticed, especially when debating women. This is a good opportunity, because we oftentimes, women are pretty much go along to get on in their nature, right? They're very passive, but there comes a time where they're not passive, and this is the masculine energy. This is where you can denote exactly their emotional maturity within this is how we know that the masculine energy that women give off is pseudo, because it is very false. It is fake. It's not authentic. And how we know this is because of the maturity level in which the masculine energy is being presented. We run circles around it. We run so many circles around it, it looks like we didn't even move. That's how fast we move a lot of times in regards to the energy that women display in masculinity versus the energy that we display. They don't even realize what happened. It's like those scenes, those cut scenes where the dude has a sword on his hip and has an apple in front of him, and he unsheaths the blade really fast and sheaths it back, and then an apple splits. It's kind of one of those things, right? But how we define their emotional maturity, once again, is based upon what they display, whether it be masculine energy or feminine energy. But we know we are the authentics. We are the authentics, so we know when something is fake. But I think the problem is that though we acknowledge it, we don't comprehend it, right? So that's what I'm here to give you all, right? So in regards to a female's emotional maturity and how she displays it, oftentimes these women, like I said, display this in a masculine stance, because that's as far as their maturity has went, even compared to their feminine maturity. They have been programmed so much, so long, so often into believing that a masculine energy is what they should hone their skills behind, is what they should put all their eggs in their basket on. That they don't have enough female energy to display to give a man the opportunity to gauge what the emotional maturity is within it, right? So a lot of times all we have to go off of is this pseudo masculine energy. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, this is almost like a broadcast, of those end of the world scenarios where you hear you have a radio, after everything has settled down, all the calamity has happened, people are trying to regroup back together, and you hear this radio signal of this guy broadcasting of how to meet up with us and get out of the circumstances of being vulnerable to whatever it is out there, right? This is kind of how I feel. It's like, wow, we're so past the point of return. We're so past the point of return. So now I have to group you guys up and send out this faint signal from this abandoned radio station of how to navigate, how to get back to what we understood as social civilization. It's a landscape out here. It's a devastation out here. It's a intangible calamity. It's an intangible desolation. But anyways, I have a lot of conversations with women. I have a lot of debates with women as well. These are offline and online. These are in many different spaces, at different times of the day. I talk, like I said, I talk to women a lot directly, and indirectly, and I'm a cat playing with its prey, right? I use these individuals to hone my skills of communication, to hone my skills of understanding what it is about me. I often debate with equals as well, so it's not my skill is not that I just pick on people. I don't want it to come off and seem like that. It's more so that I use them as a sounding board to further my skill of oration, right? So when it comes to these conversations, they're oftentimes very pseudo-masculine versus masculine. And I noticed that something always happens. Usually with the woman who is immature in masculine energy, this always happens. This is how I can tell them apart, and I can tell the difference between this is just by words, mind you. This isn't necessarily all the time face-to-face conversations. These are just by words, and I can interpret so much just from the context that people choose to display in their posturing, their verbal posturing, right? But something happens when it comes to the conversation of disagreement. Oftentimes, women show how old they are. And I'm not talking the physical age. I'm talking the intangible age, the pseudo masculine intangible age. And they show their infancy, they show their immaturity in this way. And how it is displayed is name calling. It is often displayed with ad hominems. It is often displayed with the attacks of the character. Because here's one thing that I this is how I know the difference, because I deal with women who have a proper level of feminine energy and the maturity. I have talked and I've spoken very at length with these types of women, so I know the difference, and this is how I can tell the difference. And never in any of our disagreements with such a woman have I never had to deal with passive aggressiveness. I never had to deal with innuendos of hints to my sexuality being in question. I never had to deal with the pseudo masculine energy in its immature state. I never had to deal with any of that. I believe that the higher level of feminists are mature in their pseudo masculinity, the higher levels. But the catch of it is all of it is that it's still pseudo masculine, right? So they don't win against actual masculinity. But anyways, and this is how they control the hierarchy as well, because this is the reason why a lot of pseudo masculine energy, mature females have their channels run. How they get popular? They get popular because they have become damn near masters at the pseudo masculine. They have become very mature in it, and they're tutoring the other women who also operate in pseudo masculinity how to raise their maturity level within such pseudo masculinity. Right? It is a hierarchy. You can clearly see who is pumping out the energy. You can clearly see who is trying to raise the unconscious consciousness, the I don't even know what to call it, to be honest. If it came to an esoteric definition, what do you call it? I don't know, but they're trying to raise the pseudo masculine maturity of these women. That's what a lot of these channels are built to do. It's not built to make them feminine. That is a guise. That is something that they put on the front for just to draw the women in. But they already know that they're operating in pseudo masculinity. It's almost like a switch and bait, but not really, because it is a dog whistle as well. They know that these women have no femininity. And this is where the term also pick me came from. It came from the pseudo masculine energy. There's so much to this. There's so much to this. I can make 5 videos just out of this one, given the amount of sections that I'm denoting in this video. But I'm not going to do that probably. I don't know. Maybe I will. You know me. You guys know me. I'll take a snippet from my video and expand on it further. That's the same thing I do with other people's defining of things as well. Just for instance, the Kevin Samuels, how he defines high masculine, high value men. I define it very differently. I just expanded on that, right? Because that is not necessarily all of the truth. I'm here to give you all of the truth. But anyways, let's get back to this pseudo masculine immaturity. How it displays itself once again is ad hominem attacks. This is usually the question of character, the question of your sexuality, the question of your morality. And the crazy part about it is, so okay, let's look at children, right? How do children define things? They define them very broadly, so that it encapsulates the essence of what they're talking about. But that is the sign of immaturity. Because maturity denotes the ability to display wisdom, and the wisdom is the ability to apply intellect correctly in an economic fashion, meaning that you have done this so many times that you have honed in the ability to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish with the least amount of resistance and the least amount of energy necessary to get 100% outcome. Right? That is simply what I'm defining here in contrast. So when it comes to these women in regards to how they display their energy, like I said, it's like children, and children define very broadly, and they're quick to throw names, right? That was a hallmark of growing up as a child, from what I can remember. Anyways, I remember some of my early childhood years being at school. We would crack on each other, or if we got into the little debates that we did, especially when it came to the intersex of the debates, we would call each other names, you little doo-doo head. We would use all the names that we had back then, and this was because we didn't have the maturity enough to understand that there was another way to address a person in regards to what they were saying. So we just relegated to name calling. But that is the definition of immaturity. And when you run into the debates of these women with these women, this is oftentimes what happens. This should be your sign to understand that you're dealing with a being who is displaying an immature level of essence. right? And the essence is, once again, the masculine, the pseudo masculine. That is the essence of what they're displaying. This is the reason why they're aggressive and passive aggressive. They're aggressive because it is masculine. They're passive aggressive because it's pseudo, right? They can't use it in a mature stance a lot of times. Once again, you'll see a lot of high level pseudo masculine females debate with men, and they'll sound very logical, but there's still an essence of no structure. There's still an essence of no clarity. There's still an essence of emotional depravity. This being led by the emotions. There's still that cornerstone of it, whereas masculine operates on direct, and it operates on concise. It operates on foresight. It doesn't operate on things that are opposite to structure in regards to how it displays itself. But usually that's what you see when you see, even in the high levels of pseudo masculine women. You see the output of them saying things, once again, that seem to make sense, but when you start to peel back the layers, you can see that it is fake. It's like the Gucci purses, right? The fake Gucci purses. When you start to inspect them very closely, you can see that it has a single stitch instead of a double stitch in some places where it should have a double stitch, right? When you inspect it closely, you can see the inconsistencies in its inauthenticity, right? And this is simply what I run into a lot of times. I see the inauthenticity of, first, them displaying themselves in the way that they should, and secondly, the immaturity of such, because once again, they revert to the name calling. They say, well, if you like men, just say that, in regards to you saying something like, I don't know, women need to get their shit together. Like that's something a child would say. Am I incorrect? I mean, please correct me, because if I had a debate with a child that was not mine, because my children know me, right? If I had a debate with a child and I told them that what they were doing was completely wrong, usually, depending on the age, they give me something like, you're an idiot, or not necessarily saying that they would be that disrespectful, but that would be the essence of what they were saying. It would just boil down to an attack of character, because they don't have the maturity level to be able to address what the topic is in a stance that firmly solidifies an opposition that is worthy to be debated, right? So keep an eye out for these women. Don't get into squirrels with little children. Don't get into arguments with little children, because little children, like I said, they're going to call you names. They're going to say, oh, well, your masculinity is in question, or the way you see life is in question, and this is not on a high level communication that they're expressing this. This is from the immature pseudo masculine, when they question the validity of your sexuality when the topic is about economics. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been the Wolf in Better Clothes. May you have a good day. Stay out of them arguments with them immature children, so that peace can be with you.